So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second annual Rockstar Book Club Zoom Book Club discussion. I'm Linda. Today, we are very, very excited to discuss this book, Magic, the David Paton story. And as part of our book club discussion, we are super excited and happy to have the author himself, David Paton, joining us. So, David is a Scottish bassist, guitarist, singer, songwriter, master gardener, electric bike rider, and devoted husband, father, grandfather, and just all around super sweet person. So, David, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to have you.
It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm quite nervous about this, but let's see how it goes.
You're nervous. You played at Live 8. How could this possibly be? How could this possibly make you nervous? So what we've done in the past, we just go around the room, we all introduce ourselves, and so you know who we are. And I thought it would be fun to just kind of talk about briefly how we first were exposed to Pilot, to David's music, and how we became involved with the book club. So I'm Linda. I really believe that back in about 74 or 75, my mom bought me a K-Tel album. If you remember the K-Tel albums, they were the early compilations. My mom was always buying us records and things, and Karen and I were friends in those days. We were kids, and I had a K-Tel album that had Magic on it, so I remember dancing around, and you know, I got everything I needed to know. All my music knowledge came from watching Bandstand, the Midnight Special, Don Kirshner's rock concert. I was a little kid running around watching these shows, so heard the song Magic, absolutely loved it. And then flash forward about 50 years, I'm on Facebook. I'm in a Paul McCartney group. Anyone who knows me, I'm obsessed with Paul McCartney and Wings. Love it. Love 70s music. And someone in the group posts that he's Scottish, he purchased David Paton's Pilot CD, Greatest Hits, and he said, and it even came autographed. And I am not one to turn down a meet and greet of any sort, so I thought, I gotta get that. So I went on David's website, I ordered it, I Facebook friended David. He so kindly responded and friended me, and we started having a little bit of discussion, and he told me, you know, I knew Paul McCartney, and I'm a Mull of Kintyre, and I was completely hooked. I will say, after I got the CD, I started ordering more of David's CDs. I have a pretty comprehensive David Paton music collection, and they are phenomenal. All of his music, I love it. From being in his fan group, which Dora invited me to, we just all adore David. And so when he said that he was going to be writing a book, I told him we had a book club, and you know, he did agree to be interviewed, which I thought was really cool. So that's how we're here today. So thank you so much, David. I'm going to pass the mic to Karen.
Hi. It's great to finally meet you in face to face, David. I also came to know you through the infamous K-Tel album. My grandparents used to babysit me in the summer, and I ordered it off the television. I asked if I could make the phone call, and they were willing to give me the money to buy it. So that is how I came to know your song as well. And we are thrilled that you were photographed in a t-shirt from the Rusty Rail, which is a family-owned brewery right here in Mifflinburg, Pennsylvania. And so that's very exciting. It's been up on our website at the Rail. And you're a model there now.
That's great. This is a bit like, do you remember a program called This Is Your Life?
Yes.
Is that how you feel right now? I might pull someone out. Donette, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi. I found the group. They found me, actually. I was... I don't know if it hears me. I was one of the sort of peripheral characters in Steve Kilby's book on his life. And so Linda thought that it would be interesting to talk to me, a fellow American, I guess. And so I was just delighted to join in on the conversation and talk about Steve. And so that's how I got involved in the book club. And as far as the Pilot music and David's music, it was where I grew up in Colorado, in Denver. It was on the radio just constantly. And so I heard it on the radio, and I thought it was a great song. Should I tell my story about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. So this is not my first time of hearing the the song It's Magic. But okay, so I lived in Colorado and it was cold there, right? And so my mom's car that we called Dudley had died in our driveway and it wouldn't go in reverse. That was the only thing wrong with it, you know. So I went out and I tried to turn it on and, get it into reverse, and it wouldn't go. I tried to force it. It wouldn't go. And then I tried it with the ignition off and it went right into reverse then. And so I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting. What if I put it in neutral? Okay, so it actually went like this. I put it in neutral, turned the key, flipped it really quick into reverse, and it was in reverse. And I was like, oh, and I forgot to say that if I told my mom, if I can get this car to run, can I have it? And she said, yeah, you can have it because I'm going to have to get rid of it one way or another. So anyway, I flipped it in, it goes into reverse, and I'm like, yay! And the car is like, and then on the radio it's, oh, ho, ho, it's magic. And I'm like, okay, that's a little weird, I should have been thinking, I'm in a Stephen King novel right now, and my car is like possessed. But I should be shrieking, but actually what I did was I'm like, la, 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 singing along with the la-las. And so that's my magic story. So it was a real joy to have that particular element and moment.
That's great. That's a great story. And I hear people, even when I've visited the hospital, I've had surgeons tell me stories about what magic meant to them. One surgeon in particular said that he met his wife to that song.
Oh.
And it meant a lot to them, the song, So that really thrills me when I hear stories like that. It's had impact worldwide.
Yes. Little did you know there was I guess I was 16 years old. I'd just gotten my driver's license in Colorado, like having this moment with your song.
Excellent.
Yeah. So.
Dora, do you want to go next?
Well, I on 1976, I was watching TV and I saw Pilot sing Canada. Canada is the beginning of my story with Pilot. Then after that day, I started to looking for information about the band, but that time, 70s, it's not easy to, it's very difficult to find. But internet, it's a miracle. Now I have a lot of information and made my website. It has 240 pages, and I share with the fans all information that I have got. And internet made my dream come true. Oh. I'm here now with you, David and the girls.
Dora is a historian. She really is.
Dora's website is really comprehensive. It's a really good site. I've enjoyed flicking through the pages myself.
Oh. You have been to be part in my life. It's since 47 years.
Wow.
For my family, you are like a relative who lives far away. So, they know you, and my mom call you Pilot. She think Pilot is your name. I think it's your name too.
Very good.
So we lost Barbie. I guess she's coming back. So I guess we'll just kind of get started and she'll pop back in again. So I guess the first question I wanted to start with, or just kind of discuss, is so last weekend I'm watching Glastonbury. I'm watching these different performances, not on our TV here because I think it's mostly in England, but we're watching through Facebook and through YouTube, and it's totally not lost on me that these performers are someone that David has performed with in the past. I mean, the main stage on Sunday night was Elton John, whom of course you toured with over 3 years. You wrote the bass line for Nikita. You had a great relationship with him. Chrissy Hynde and the Pretenders performed on the Pyramid stage. I read in your book that she asked you to join her band. You're on I'll Stand By You and different songs from that album. Even at one point, Chrissy Hynde pulled Paul McCartney from the stage and brought him out. It's like, well, you're on Mull of Kintyre. You have that Paul McCartney relationship. So, you know, I'm obviously not a musician, but I'm excited to see these people. We watch them. These are the musicians we grew up with. These are the musicians we love. So how did you feel, David? Like, were you watching for 3 or 4 days? Were you watching all the performances and were you thinking like, wow, I wish I was there, or I could have still been there? Or like, what were your thoughts as you watched Glastonbury?
I did feel quite nostalgic when I watched Elton, especially because I haven't watched him live for a long time. And you know, I don't know if it was regret because I did what I did because I wanted to at that time. I wanted to leave. And watching Chrissy as well, I thought, yeah, I wish I was there. I'd love to be on that stage now performing these songs because I thought she was really good. And I thought Elton was really good as well. And to be a part of that, it would have thrilled me as a musician and myself for being there. Achieving working with Elton John, it's like the top for a musician, you know, to get that gig and writing a #1 for a songwriter. That also is a big achievement. But, you know, the top of the tree was Elton John as a musician. So, yeah, I watched it and enjoyed every moment. I did. I can't say it was regret. I just thought, oh, I wish I was there. That's all. You know, but I really enjoyed the performance, the whole lot. And I listened to the bass player.
Well, they did say ahead of time Elton would have 4 special guests, and I thought, I wonder if David is one of them.
No, I don't think. I get my Christmas card from him every year, but that's about it.
Oh, that's so sweet. Someone else, Donette, do you have a question?
Yeah, speaking of that bass part from Elton John's, the song you did with Elton John, Nikita, I listened to it closely. You know, it's I'd never listened specifically to the bass part before, and what struck me was how much you focused on the melody, and it was really in many moments of the song, it was actually really very simple and melodic, and I've noticed that among the most accomplished musicians that I know of, that they are not interested in being show-offy, right? So I did catch a few really fancy riffs there in between, but only when the song wanted it or needed it. And I wonder, in your experience, has that tended to be the case, that all of the fancy show-offy riffs are something that you don't do the more achievement you get as a musician?
Yeah, I tend to be very sympathetic to what's going on in the song. I listen to everything, and if there's a place for a lick, then I'll stick it in. But when that song came together, when Elton sat down at the piano and started to play the chords in the studio, and I was setting up my bass, just the both of us in the studio, I knew that it was a kind of test. You know, he wanted to see if I would pick up on what he was doing and play along with him. So I did. I picked up on it and I played along.
I could tell that.
Over. Yeah, he was looking over and smiling at me as if to say, yeah, this is what I want to hear. And, you know, and I felt quite relaxed about it, and I thought I better throw in a couple of licks.
I heard them.
Just to see if he's happy with it. And when I did it, you know, I could see him going, oh, you know. So when we finished doing that, he said, we're going to record this now. He said, and do it exactly as you did it there. He says, I love these little licks that you're throwing in. But as I say, I don't usually throw in that many licks. I'm more sympathetic to everybody. Usually the guitar player's got it covered, you know, but in that song, there's nothing else happening. And I thought, oh, there's space here. I can fill that space. Yeah, so it's always been, I love when we get in the studio and you're playing live as a band, and you'll know yourself. Sometimes it's not like that, especially now with the internet. And I work with a Japanese band. They send me the files. I put the bass part down. It's not spontaneous like it is when there's a bunch of musicians in the studio together, working together. That to me is the biggest thrill. And I'm delighted to say that I've been asked to work with David Pack in Abbey Road at the end of this month. And it's going to be a band situation. It's going to be Alan Parsons producing, although it's quite hard.
Oh, we get to know.
It's quite shocking, actually. Really? Wow.
Yeah, but I've been asked to do it. There hasn't been any finalisation, but well, I'm still waiting to hear from David. But yeah, so that will be a live band situation. And you just can't beat that, especially in Studio 2 in Abbey Road.
That's exciting. So you're going back to Abbey Road, yeah?
Yeah, and I
Wow.
I don't know if you got the paperback version of my book, but there's an extra chapter being added at the end.
Oh.
And it's all to do with my involvement with Ozempic, which you guys over there are well aware of. And you know they've been using my song, but it wasn't my recording. But they are launching a new campaign this month, I believe, and they asked me to re-record my song, and I said, well, I don't have to re-record it. I've already re-recorded it. They asked me to send it to them. I sent it to them. They said, yeah, we love it if you can just do the Ozempic chorus. You know, kind of cringe. Yeah, I did sing "Oh Ho Ho Ozempic."
Oh boy.
Yeah, but that was they made such a big deal out of that. There was 14 Americans came over to Abbey Road. This was in February, just before I went off on a month's long holiday. And 14 Americans came over on a flight, and there was 5 people in the lighting crew. There was 5 people in the sound crew. There was engineers. It was such a big deal. And they filmed every single thing that I did. They interviewed me. They had me using a teleprompter and talking to the convention that they're going to be having. But I'm telling you all this, but it was only me, and I had my guitar with me. They said, can you add some extra licks, you know, on the guitar that aren't on the record? I said, okay, let's have a go. So we did that, and I sang, and it was a whole 12-hour shift, and it was great. It was really good fun. Just Abbey Road still has that magic. I mean, I spent 10 or 15 years of my life working in Abbey Road. It was a home from home. And as I say in my book, it's like going into the Beatles' workshop. And I never get over the thrill of going through these doors and into Abbey Road. It's such a thrill.
Yeah.
So do you think on the new commercial, will it say David Paton, will have your name listed on the commercial as the songwriter?
No, I don't think the television ads will do that, but I did a few things for TikTok and various other things, you know, like pointing at the sign that way. You know, there was lots of that going on, so I think they'll be used on that. Certainly be used on social media. It was such a big deal. I was thrilled with it, but you know, I'm not an attention seeker, so it can make me feel a bit embarrassed having to walk across the crossing outside Abbey Road. And there was lots of tourists there, of course, and they're wondering what's going on here. You know, the crew were stopping the traffic, and I was right, take 2 across the road. Yeah, so there was a lot going on.
That's exciting.
It was fun though, and I had my wife with me, and yeah, I think she doesn't usually get to see all these interviews and things that I do. So it was a thrill for her as well to be back in Abbey Road.
Aw, that's so sweet. Karen, do you have a question?
I do. You obviously have performed all over the world, and I was just wondering what place made the biggest impact on you professionally? And then in that same line, now as a civilian, I heard you say you were just on a holiday. Where do you like to go, or where would you like to go? Where has been, somewhere that you and your family have enjoyed being?
Yeah, well, I'm not saying this just because Dora's there, but I did find South America fantastic. It was somewhere that I'd always wanted to go to, and I was lucky enough to go there with Elton John in 87 or 86 then. And I was impressed by Rio de Janeiro, and I loved Argentina as well. That's the kind of place, when I visit places, and maybe you're all the same, if you've got a partner but you happen to visit a place on your own, you think, oh, I'd love my partner to see this. I was thinking that when I was walking down the streets in Argentina and Buenos Aires, and thinking, this is fantastic. My wife would love this. So, that's the place that I thought was, it really blew my mind to think, here I am in South America, and it's true, they've got these big, huge, old American cars rolling down the streets. It's I did think that Bogota was a frightening place to be in, and we were told not to leave the hotel. So we were in Bogota for one concert, and we spent the whole time in the hotel, and we weren't allowed out. It was a contractual thing, and security as well, just in case somebody wanted to kidnap the bass player from Elton John's band.
Yeah. Aw.
Well, I'm glad no one kidnapped you, for sure.
Yeah. We wouldn't be here today. My gosh. Dora, do you have a question?
I'd like to know if you had a bad experience with crazy girls, with basic rollers. What do fans represent in your career?
What represent?
Fans.
Fans.
Yeah.
If
you represent something.
If it wasn't for fans, I wouldn't have any success. So they're the record buyers, and I know what it's like to be a fan. I'm a big fan, as you already know, of Paul McCartney. I was a big fan of Prince. I had the pleasure of being on the same stage as Prince. So I know what it feels like if an idol of mine pays me some attention, like Paul McCartney did, asking me questions about myself and telling me little secrets about him. It's a great thrill to experience that. So I feel that if somebody wants to speak to me, and if they're polite, I'm quite happy to speak to them. And I realise that they maybe think I'm something special, which I'm not. So, I realise what that means to them. So that's great. It's great to do that for people. I hope you understand me, Dora.
Yeah, a little. I will improve my English. I promise.
Okay.
Thank you. Barbie, I don't know, you keep coming in and out. Can you hear us? Barb? Uh-oh.
She's just watching on mute.
She's walking around, looks like.
Yeah.
There's always an AV issue somewhere. Okay.
So John had an interesting question.
Yes, John, please join us.
Yeah, I found one of the enduring themes in the book, or repeating themes in your book, was the idea when major change happens, you don't spend too much time looking back. You do a little bit, but you view it as a new chapter, a way to open up a new door. And I was wondering, there seems to be some sort of profound insight in there that we all seek in life, or should benefit from. Was that something that you came to realize recently in your life, or was it a feeling you had cultivated early on due to, having many experiences like this? How did that come to you, and did you always feel that way?
I think it goes back many years to maybe when I was 16 or 17, when the Bay City Rollers had their big chance of fame. And I knew it was a big chance of fame, but I decided to say, I don't want to be a part of it. And I really thought that would be the end of my career as a musician, or my chance, my one chance in a million to have international success. But it really took me back when suddenly I got another chance with Pilot. And I started to think, that there's no coincidence that maybe there's something in my life that's pushing me in a direction, that's taken me somewhere. So, sometimes you want something to go on and on and on, and you try and make it go on and on and on. But then you start getting obstacles put in your way, and you realize, well, maybe it's not meant to be, so drop it. And I think that's what happened with Pilot. Pilot had their 3 years, but there were so many obstacles coming along. I thought, it's like a sign. Give it up, forget it, move on, And then when you do that, it's like being on a roundabout, you're waiting to get off. When you do get off, you find that, another world opens up and you get another opportunity to do something else. That's the way I see it, anyway.
That's good.
Yeah, I found that very helpful.
He's facing a few things like that too right now. So.
Okay.
Well, and so I think kind of jumping off of that, one of the questions that Mary sent us, because she couldn't be here today, was asking about your thoughts on the AI technology, recreating people's voices, creating music without really having that human element. And, I think it's such a conflicted thing right now. They're talking about taking some of these last Beatles songs and kind of amping up or recreating John Lennon's voice. Some people are really in favor, some people are really against it. And then I was thinking about, when I read her question, with Pilot, when Pilot broke up, and then you said 2 years later, Billy came back, or 2 years before he died, and said maybe we could kind of start it up and try it again. And at that point, you had really moved on, what you just said, you had moved on to something else. Would you ever consider taking like unfinished Pilot songs or something like that and using AI to put like Billy's voice back in? Or what are your thoughts on AI in general? Is it something that you feel positive about, or something you don't like at all?
I like certain aspects of it, but I think you can go too far with it. Maybe this recreation of a Beatles song, it might be good. I think it lacks expression and emotion. They might recreate, put John Lennon back in with the Beatles, but I always feel there's something lacking there. It's not really creative. Well, it is kind of creative, but not in a way of moving forward. Kind of going back, and with music technology in general, I see the advances in the work that I do at my studio at home. 20 or 30 years ago, when I recorded a song, it sounded like a demo, and I couldn't make it sound like it'd been recorded in a professional studio. Now I just have a computer, and I don't have any software externally. It's all in the computer, and the things that I can do now are just amazing. And I suppose there's a touch of AI involved in that development. So I can't really knock it all the way, although I think it can go too far. And it depends how far they want to go with it. I think it will reach a point where, even Elon Musk is saying, oh, no, it's going too far. I kind of agree with him on that. We can take it too far, but I think we'll probably realize that's too far. People might start rebelling against it.
Okay. Karen, Donette, do you have another question you want to ask? I'm not sure what Barbie's doing, so.
Well, I wondered about the screaming girls. Why do they do that?
Why exactly? And you know, I first experienced that in the Bay City Rollers, I suppose. That was huge in Edinburgh before it broke, before they even released a song. That hysteria was there with these 16-year-old guys and 14-year-old girls or 16-year-old girls. You know, there's something, I don't know what it is, but Tam Paton, for all he has been, but there was a program on the television about Tam Paton, who managed the Bay City Rollers. He's no relation to me, but he was the manager of the Bay City Rollers. And he was, you know, there were lots of sexual allegations against them with younger boys. Okay, so although all that was going on, he knew how to create that hysteria with the young girls.
Oh.
And his philosophy was, if you keep yourself unavailable, which the Bay City Rollers were masters at, they would keep themselves away from the fans. They wouldn't in any way, you know, sign autographs or things or spend time with fans. It was always, they were inaccessible, and none of them were married, even though I was. No, I wasn't, but I had a girlfriend. So, you know, that was taboo to have a girlfriend. So he knew how to manipulate and make these girls realize that this band they're unavailable, and so they wanted the band more and more. And you know, I'm a guy, so I don't really have that way of thinking. Although, you know, there's guys that I think are fantastic, like Prince, and as I mentioned before, you know, I'm a fan as well. So I know what it's like, but I wouldn't go to the extent of being hysterical about it. You know, and that's something I don't quite understand, but I realised how it can be manipulated, as it was with the Bay City Rollers, with any teeny band. You know, they knew how to manipulate the audience. And one thing to Pilot's credit was we tried to rebel against that. We didn't want that kind of appeal. We wanted to be taken seriously because we were serious about our music. And I think I mentioned even that we went to the extent of growing moustaches because we thought, you know, that's going to put them off. But,
yeah, it seems like the screaming would be counterproductive, you know, if they really wanted to attract your attention in a good way, but
yeah, and we kind of modeled ourselves on the Beatles, and you know, the Beatles didn't like all that attention either. They were more serious about doing work in the studio, and I think Billy Lyle and I both kind of agreed that we would be happy not to bother touring and just do studio work and release albums. That's what we enjoyed the most, and we listened to serious artists. We wanted people to listen to our music. Of course, of course, you wanted them to scream and whatnot and get excited, but as long as they were listening to the music as well.
right.
I'm not a crazy fan.
Wow.
Okay, Dora, we believe you.
Not
You think that's
crazy.
funny?
A little obsessive, but not crazy. I don't scream when if someday I see you face to face. I'm not screaming.
David, you brought up all the screaming, like the manipulation of the fans and the screaming and just the crazy lifestyle with all the traveling. How did you and your wife make it through? Like, I mean, she had to be crazy patient and understanding with your traveling, with your travel work schedule. I'm sure that was very challenging.
Yeah, I think, you know, one thing that she reminded me of was when she first met me and I offered to walk her home, and we were walking down the street and she said, what do you want to do in your life? I said, I want to be famous. And I don't remember saying that because I've always said I never wanted to be famous. I've always said, yeah, I wanted success, but I never wanted fame. I enjoy being successful at what I do. So she knew there and then that music meant a lot to me. And I think anybody that has a partner that's involved in a creative way with whatever his career is or her career, they have to realize that it's a big, big part of their life. And that music for me has always been a big part of my life. And Mary has always been invited along to wherever she wanted to go. But life on the road doesn't suit everybody. You know, a lot of people don't like to live out a suitcase, especially women. I don't think they're comfortable with it, especially, you know, if you like to get dressed up and look nice and being on the road, it doesn't always work out well for you in that respect. So she would join me if I say, "Oh, I'm going to be in New York for a week. Why don't you come out? You'll like New York." "Okay, I'll come out." So she would do that, and even to the point where we went to Los Angeles, and Elton said, "Okay, we've got 3 weeks off now, and then we go to Australia." He said, "We're all going back home. If you want to bring your wife out here, David, you can spend 3 weeks in Los Angeles." And that's what we did. We had 3 weeks in Los Angeles. And, you know, as I've got older, my wife's been able to join me on many things. I've had been working with Albert Hammond for 3 years, mainly in Germany, which is a wonderful place to visit. Highly recommend it. And there were many places in Germany that Mary wanted to come out to, so she did come out. Some of the journeys, some days would be 5 hours sitting in a van. It's not pleasant. That's one side of tour that I don't like. Maybe working with Elton is slightly different because, you know, we would have gigs in New York, and then we'd maybe fly out to, say, Chicago, and after the gig we'd fly back to New York and stay in New York, and then the next night we might be in some other place that's maybe 400 miles within New York. We'd fly out again to there and fly back to New York. So we were based in New York, but flying back and forward. And not many bands can afford to work that way.
Yeah, and I think it's such a good question. And it's interesting because we just went to see John Cougar Mellencamp, and one of the posts that John Cougar had up on Instagram or something, or I don't remember, but he said he thanked his kids because he's had 3 marriages. And he thanked his kids for putting up with the fact that for years and years they didn't have a dad around because he toured and toured and toured. So, I mean, you are really so unusual being married for 50 years to the same person and, you know, having a great marriage and I mean, you could counsel rock stars. You could have like a psychiatrist business. That's what I always think. Like, you should tell them what to do because clearly you have it figured out. But like your daughter, Sadie, who's such a great singer, is she, but she's not really interested in, like performing, like touring or making records, or it's not really her thing?
No, it's not her thing, although she's really good at it, and I wish she would do more. I just can't get her motivated into that area, and I'm not going to push her. I've never pushed her into music. I thought she'd find her own level if she wanted to do it. She's a great ear, and she's good at what she does, but she just I don't think she wants to pursue it anymore. She's coming up for 50 years old now, which is probably the same age as you, Linda. Is that right?
55.
Yeah, there you go. My God, I could be your dad.
Aw, that's funny. Well, and so you brought up, does anyone else have a question? I feel like I'm talking and talking. You brought up Alan Parsons Project. And I have to say, for anyone on this call that has never heard David's re-recording of the songs, the Pilot Project CD and The Traveler, run out and get them, order them. I don't know if you still sell them, Dave. Amazing. Like, by far in my top 5 of albums ever. I have the Pilot Project in my car on all the time. I got my mom's car the other day and she said, "My favorite song is Eye in the Sky." And I didn't realize your friend David sang it. She said, my mom is, she plays that CD incessantly. So I know in the original Alan Parsons, you were not the actual original singer of that, but how did you, when you were in Alan Parsons Project, or when you were in Keats, which was a super group of yourself and Ian and Colin Blunstone, I never know if I said that correctly, from the Zombies. Yeah. You're all really great musicians and singers. How do you decide who's going to sing lead on one of those songs?
Well, with the Alan Parsons project, it was Eric Wolfson who was writing all these lovely songs. And between Eric and Alan, they would decide who was going to sing what, but we never really had a say in it at all. So I was lucky enough, I think I sang 5 songs in total over a 10-year period. But my main job, I always thought, was to be the bass player. I did enjoy singing the songs. And I always thought my voice was comparable with Eric Wolfson's voice, had the same kind of range as me. And so when we decided to do the pilot projects, that was mainly to help Ian out, because Ian had been touring with Alan Parsons until Alan decided to move to the USA, and he didn't want to take the band with him, Ian and Stuart Elliott, who was also the original drummer with the Alan Parsons project. So he's using an American band, which didn't go down well with Ian, and Ian was kind of left high and dry without anything to do. And I just recorded one of the project songs and said to Ian, play guitar on this, let's see how it goes. And he played the guitar and it just sounded so good. So I said, let's do a whole album. And that's just how it came about. We did a whole album, and it certainly made it, cheered Ian up. You know, it made him much happier that he could actually, you know, that was his forte. That was what he was known for, his guitar playing. And he had no outlet when Alan dropped him from the band. So he's happy, he was happy.
Eric wrote a song called Dora.
What song?
Yeah, Freudian album has a song called Dora, wrote from by Eric Wilson.
He wrote a song called Dora.
He had a Dora in his life.
Is it for you, Dora?
No, unfortunately, no. Nobody.
We had no idea.
Nobody wrote song for me.
Barbie, can you ask a question now? I don't know. I don't know. How about you, Donette? Do you have any more questions?
Oh, yeah, I do. Let's see. Yeah, I noticed there was a lot of sort of the occult, more than the normal amount, like with the fortune teller who said that you would be successful in music. And I wondered if that was maybe kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you always had a sense of confidence about your musical career because you had been told that, you know, that you would have. Do you think that it had much of an impact on you?
I don't think so. I think it's because I was brought up in that kind of environment where, you know, I think all this spiritualism and seances and whatnot began in the USA in the 20s or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And it certainly influenced my grandparents and my own parents, especially my father, who seemed to have some kind of gift in that area. He'd seen or told me about certain things that I just found unbelievable, but I knew my dad wouldn't exaggerate to me. And I just, you know, I still find it strange and unbelievable, but then again, so many things have happened to me in my life that make me think somebody's looking after me, you know, otherwise I could be a drug addict or anything now, but I'm not. You know, as I touched on before, I've come through it all quite happily, and I just feel I'm being guided by something. But I don't dabble in that kind of thing. I think if there is some kind of guidance, I think it's helping me as a musician. I think I have a gift as a musician and I want to use it. I want to keep making music and as much as I can. So if there's any kind of, you know, like my dad had this gift for spiritualism, I think my spiritualism is the music. And it comes through me in the same way as whatever it is went through him. That's what I believe, anyway.
That
And-
makes sense.
And in your book, you mentioned having the dream about Elton John about 2 or 3 weeks
Right.
before he called you, where he's chasing you and you're like climbing over like walls and things. So, and you never knew him before prior to that, right? You just dreamed of Elton John, having never met him before.
Yeah, and that struck me as strange, and it always has. You know, that'll always be with me. I do have some vivid dreams sometimes, and you know, sometimes I can't decide, was that a dream or did that really happen? You know, it's like dreaming that I was Elton John's bass player. Maybe it never really happened.
We're all in that dream too. Right? Oh, that's so sweet. And so you never, when you did meet him and tour with him, you never mentioned that you had the dream about him?
No, maybe I should have. Maybe he would have just laughed at me. I don't know. I don't know. I've had some strange dreams. Yeah, but that was so real, and I did tell my wife about it, and she was amazed when I got the phone call to go and do a session. You know, I just thought, I'm getting to do a session with Elton John. I had a premonition. I knew it was going to happen, but I never knew it would lead on to a world tour and doing Live Aid and all that kind of stuff, you know. But, you know, and I don't think I wanted to be Elton John's bass player for the rest of my life. I was happy to have 3 years of it. And he had a year off, and when he wanted to go back, it just so happened I was working with a guy called Rick Wakeman, and he was about to go on a tour. And I felt I just couldn't let him down. So when Elton asked me to go back, I said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I don't know if that's the right decision to make, but morally, I felt it was the right decision at the time.
Barbies meditate.
Karen,
Question.
any other? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, John.
I was just picking up on what you just said. It seems like throughout your life, you've had different musical instruments, starting with a Spanish guitar player on a classical guitar, perhaps, I don't know. But and then, you know, you seem to hold Scottish traditional music in the same esteem as you do with other kinds of music. And to me, that's quite interesting. And there seems to be a certain integrity to that, and in what you just said about your commitments, not just to one thing, but to whatever you're doing in the moment. And can you comment a little bit on that, how that has influenced you either musically or otherwise, that interest that you have?
I think it's just a moral thing, you know. Just I've always wanted to be a good person, I think, if I can, as much as I can. And, you know, just not letting people down. I hate the thought of letting somebody down. It haunts me to think, oh, I've let that person down. I wish I hadn't done that. So with the Rick Wakeman situation, I just felt that, you know, this is the right thing to do. I can't leave him in the lurch. Doesn't matter that he eventually dumped me. You know, that's his karma, not mine. Yeah, but I don't know. It's just the way I am as a person. I suppose I'm kind of loyal to people, especially the people I'm working with.
Yeah, I was thinking you got bit pretty hard by the guys you call dim and thick, and in the beginning of your you know, being a recording artist career. So that ended up being maybe it was instructive to you that you didn't want to be that kind of person. And I know who those guys are, by the way.
Okay.
It's gotta be Nick and Tim Heath, yeah?
I won't say yes or no.
Okay. Anyway, I
just
thought
in
that
case
was
it
very
gets me in
kind of
trouble.
you. Okay, yeah, I see. But yeah, so, you know, the fact that you maintain your own integrity in the face of being in a business that doesn't always value that, I really think that that's really something to be. And maybe that is part of the reason that you were able to stay married for so long too, because that's the person you are. Just
Yeah, maybe. But I also think I found my soulmate early on when I was 16. If there is such a thing, you know, it just seems that she came into my life and as a guide as well to keep me right, because I can make some silly decisions and sometimes I just need a bit of intelligence to say, wait a minute, think this through. You know,
it sounds like she saved your life at one point there.
I think she did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have gone off in the wrong direction. Yeah, but I think every man should have a woman in his life, if you're that way inclined, or a partner. You know, yeah. I think to share experiences and when you're indecisive about something, to share it with somebody that's so close to you is so very important, because that feedback can influence you heavily, very heavily. And you know the story about me writing the song Magic. You know, the song wouldn't have come about if she hadn't said to me, "I've never been awake to see the daybreak."
Yeah, I was impressed that you were delivering milk.
Yeah.
I used to
Imagine
listen.
David's your milkman coming up.
I know, I can't
That
imagine
long
it.
hair and big eyes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
There was a lot of milk being delivered. Well, and she inspired January as well.
As well, and a few other songs that you know, she hasn't been given credit for, but she gets a share of the royalties.
What musician or artist of current day would you say you're really interested in, or you listen to their music, or you would love to do, you know, a collaboration with? Is there anyone currently that you think is really good?
I listen to a band who you might not have heard of. They're called Landreth, Bros Landreth. They're American. I would highly recommend a listen to them. The brothers, so it's BROS Landreth. When I'm sitting in the garden and having a glass of wine, I'll put on, "Hey Google, play the Brothers Landreth," and I'll listen to that nearly all the time. They're always putting out new stuff, and I just think it's really sad that they're not known worldwide, because they're so good. There's also another band that I listen to. They have a bass player called Joe Dart, also American, and they're called Wolfpack. The bass player is just stunning, you know. And when I hear something that good, I just can't stop laughing. I just think, this is so good, listening to this band, you know. So that's two examples of bands that I listen to at the moment that I just think, wow, they knock me out. They're not mainstream, you know, but I've always tended to listen to bands that are not mainstream, and I think to myself, I'm quite happy that they've not been discovered. They're mine to listen to. I've got that kind of attitude to it, you know. So
you're not a Swiftie. You're not a Swiftie, David. Nah. You don't follow Taylor Swift around the country or anything.
No, not at all.
Other questions? Anyone?
Paul McCartney made a samba for Brazilian fans. Do you try to make a samba too?
Samba,
yes.
Yeah, of course. You'll know, Dora, that on nearly every pilot album or solo album, I've written a song that sounds kind of Spanish or South American. Yeah. Yo solo quiero estar tranquilo. Yeah. So, you know, I'm always writing songs with that kind of Latin feel. A samba might be a bit of a challenge, but, you know, I love Antonio Carlos Jobim.
Yes.
And he writes beautiful music. I would love to write a song as clever as one of his songs.
Thank you.
I think we lost Karen. I don't know.
Yeah.
We've taken an hour of your time.
Okay.
Are you feeling exhausted by us now?
No, okay.
Okay. When you played at Live Aid, who were you most excited to meet? And was there anyone that you were super excited to meet? And I know you won't say anything negative, so I'm not going to really ask you who you were disappointed by. But you know, I mean, Live Aid, 72,000 people, watched by a billion people. Huge. Just, I mean, the biggest event probably you could ever play in your life. We that grew up in the 70s and 80s, we watch those videos and we cry. I mean, I think it's so emotional. It is. I mean, I could cry anytime I watch Paul McCartney, but like to see Paul and Elton and George Michael, whom like oh my God, I love George Michael. You wrote in your book how George Michael came up to you and said, I love the song January. And you said, well, I like Careless Whisper. And he was like, no, January influenced me. Was that like a big moment for you, meeting George Michael? I mean, he was still young at that point, wasn't he? Newly
Yeah, it was a
discovered.
big moment. We rehearsed at a major film studio in London with Elton for the Live Aid concert. And of course, George was there because he came on and sang Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me with Elton. And I could, as I described it, I could see him standing at the back of the studio, and he was talking to Elton, and they were pointing towards me, and he was looking towards me, and I thought, oh no, he's going to come over and talk to me. I kind of knew he was going to come over and talk to me. I thought, what will I say? And he walked the whole length of the studio, and I was watching him walking towards me. I thought, oh my God, he's going to come over and say something. And he walked right up to me and said, hi, David. I just wanted to say how much January meant to me and my songwriting. And I felt, what can I say? You become tongue-tied with somebody of that stature. I suppose I was like that when I first met Elton, but Elton can make you feel so at ease. And I think George wanted to do the same, but I was stumbling and mumbling and you know, Careless Whisper was such a wonderful song. I had to turn the compliment onto him rather than him compliment me. Yeah, I'm always doing that. If somebody compliments me, I try and turn it back to them in some kind of way. Wow. So meeting George Michael was a wonderful thing. To be at the same table as David Bowie and Cat Stevens, that was fantastic as well. And you realise, you know, they're just sitting about talking about regular things. And it's a great privilege to be in that situation where you're with a sea of faces and they're all recognisable as musicians that have somehow influenced you in some way in the past. And to be at ease with them and just sit and listen to the conversations backstage at Live Aid was just something else. Yeah, wonderful.
That's amazing. Donette, do you have any more questions?
Oh, how about you? John always has questions. He's a professor.
John's a musician too, right?
Your view about music today, and you know, you've had a long career and you've had a lot of, you know, chances to see it at different stages. Do you feel that it's changing in some fundamental way? What's the future of popular music in your view? Is it headed, do you see it going in a particular direction or?
No, I think it's become more diverse now than ever. And in fact, I was just listening, I use Google a lot, and I say, play the top 40 hits. And I started to listen, and I was saying to myself, I really like this. I like this. These are catchy songs. And I was surprised that, you know, you think, well, somebody of my age thinks it's all boom, cha, boom, cha, boom, cha, boom, cha, boom, and a repetitive melody. Well, that is there. But also, if you dig a little bit deeper, there's a lot more there. And I've mentioned, and I'll mention them again, the brothers Landreth and Wolfpeck. They're just doing something different. And to me, to have bands like that now. It gives me hope. I think it hasn't gone away. I think the bands like Genesis and Yes that I used to live and listen to in the early 70s, that seems to have disappeared, that progressive kind of music, unless it's there and I can't find it. I don't know. But I used to love that music. It was such an influence on me to listen to music of that complicated and such accomplished musicianship coming from bands. I don't know if you're aware of early Genesis and Yes, and various other bands of that ilk. That kind of music seems to have disappeared. And although, kind of Jaco Pastorius and Weather Report and bands like that kind of continued it in a way with the kind of jazz influence. That fascinated me as well. And I think that's still there to a certain degree. But as I say, it's really surprised me when I said, put on the top 40, and I listened and I thought, well, that's a nice tune. The thing that hasn't stuck with me now is, I used to memorize the charts. I would know every single artist that was in the charts in the 70s. Now I just don't know the names. I listen to the song and I'll say, Mary, who's that? She knows who is singing. I don't. I say, that's a good song. Yeah, it surprises me that people are still writing good songs, although it might take maybe 20 people to write one song. And I thought, why are they doing that? How can 20 people contribute to one song? I don't understand that. When I write a song, I write it myself. I don't need any help from anyone else. But maybe nowadays somebody will just need to say, I've never been awake to see the daybreak, and then you have to credit them with that. Maybe I should have done. I don't know. We'll keep it quiet.
Well, I do have a question. When I found the tour video or the documentary the other day of the Elton John Tour de Force, I think it was, and was that the Australian tour where you played with a symphony?
Yeah.
I just love that so much. I love classic rock when they do the new arrangement or different arrangement and they do the symphony. I loved you're on the CD, I guess, of Rick Wakeman. There's that video of you doing the classical guitar to Eleanor Rigby. I just love all that. Would you ever consider taking your classic Pilot songs, performing them with a symphony, and then bringing them to like Philadelphia to the doing like some sort of like just doing that classic rock with a symphony? I think that's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, in my dreams. I've been working with a guy called Andrew Powell, and Andrew Powell was the guy who arranged all the strings for the Alan Parsons project for the orchestra. He also did the string arrangement on Magic with Pilot. So Andrew and I have been writing stuff together. We've written quite a few songs together. And, I've said to him, Andrew, this is, we're using AI, I suppose, because we don't have an orchestra, but Andrew's writing orchestral arrangements and he's using the computer to replicate them. It doesn't work for me like that. It has to be an orchestra. So I'm saying to Andrew, we need to get somebody to help us with this and get an orchestra involved to do the recordings. So it's early stages at the moment, but the songs are there, the string arrangements are there. We just need to, get the finances together to do an album and have a real orchestra play on it. That would be great. I'm quite happy to go out and sing songs like Lovely Lady Smile, Pilot songs with just the guitar. I don't mind doing that. To have an, as I say, it's just in my dreams to have an orchestra. What an ego trip that would be.
That would be very cool. And do you ever go to concerts locally or go to shows and you go up afterward and say to the performer, like, oh, I'm a big fan. And they're like, oh my God, you're David Paton from Pilot. Do you ever surprise someone by being a fan of their music and they recognize you and they're like, I'm not worthy, that type of thing?
Yeah, it happens with some unusual people. A lot of comedians and people that perform. We're coming up to our Edinburgh International Festival, which is pretty famous. And we have, maybe, I don't know how many acts. I think there's something like 5,000 different performers come to Edinburgh to perform throughout the month of August. And I'm lucky enough to have a friend who gets backstage passes to the what they call the green room, and when I'm there, he'll maybe introduce me to, oh, this is my friend David. David wrote the song Magic. And wow, I'm surprised at the reaction, especially when some of these guys are maybe in their 30s or whatnot. And I get the same with my grandson. He'll tell his friends, my granddad wrote Pops. They call me Pops. My Pops wrote Magic. And I'd like to meet him, And I get my grandson, who's 15, saying, my pal wants to meet you. That's fun.
And you said in your book you had that same response from Brian Wilson, and it's on one of your CDs. You have like a dedication in there about Brian Wilson said, you wrote that song, and he was all excited and impressed. That's got to be a highlight of your career.
Not half, coming from somebody that wrote God Only Knows.
That's a great song.
Wow, what a song. And for him to say that to me and to stare at me while we were getting our photograph taken, he wasn't looking at the camera, he was staring at me and repeating the words, never believe it's not so. I just thought, oh, he really does know the song. He wasn't just making it up, he did know the song. And for him to say, I wish I'd written that song. Yeah, you're talking about a legend,
Incredible.
That's amazing.
Aw. David, does anyone else have any other questions?
Good.
So you're going to have to join us for our next one. You're going to have to join the panel as a featured
Okay.
rock star.
We'll see how we go.
Yeah, I guess. Well, that wasn't a no, so that was good.
Okay.
Well, Karen did text me she lost her internet, and Barbie
Oh.
also texted that she couldn't get any sound. So they both said thank you for your time. Karen said it was so nice meeting you, and she just apologized because her internet went out. But
Well, it's been great talking to you. I've enjoyed your questions. Felt a bit on edge at times and think, how am I going to answer this? But,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed it. It was good.
I
It
did.
was fun to meet you.
Yes.
Oh, good. Great.
Yeah.
You too.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Oh,
so much.
great. Great talking to you.
This was so much fun.
Excellent.
Yes. Thanks, Linda, for setting it up.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Okay, well,
Linda.
I hope we meet again and have another chat, or
Huh.
I'll be involved with your
Yeah.
chats of some sort.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be in our next
Okay.
one. Thanks, David. Bye, everybody. Thank you for your
Bye.
participation. Nice meeting you,
Goodbye,
John.
everyone.
Bye, Dora.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.